Chaos Space Marines are what happens when super soldiers stay angry for 10,000 years. So you know how regular Space Marines are. They're all about discipline, loyalty, and for the Empire. Chaos Space Marines are for the ones who say, nah, I want more power now. And the Dark Gods say, cool. It'll hurt you though. That's the whole vibe of this army. They still wear power armor, they still swing chain swords, and they still roll onto the battlefields like they own it. Every tool they have is twisted, spiky, and paid for in blood. Real quick, before we go deeper in this Chaos Space Marine deep dive, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next video. All right, let's talk real traders. Here's what we're doing today. First, I'm going to tell you who Chaos Space Marines actually are. Not the 40-page lore dump, just enough so your list feels like it belongs to the Chaos and not Red Space Marines. Then we'll break down the army rules, Dark Pacts, because that is the whole identity of the faction in 10th edition. Then I'll show you 3 ways people actually run Chaos Space Marines right now, the mad science behind Bile style, and the sorcerer stand near me and get stronger style, and the jump in and scare people style. Then we'll end with a super simple beginner pass so you know what to paint first. So who are the Chaos Space Marines? They are Space Marines that betrayed the Emperor because they wanted more power, vengeance, and their Primac told them to. They went into the warp, time to get weird. They made friends with demons, and every single thing they do is a mix of Marine training plus warp nonsense. That's why they still have squads. That's why they still have champions. And that's why their tanks look like Imperial stuff, but angry. You're an elite army that's totally fine with taking more damage, but also doing more damage also. That leads straight into the main rule you have to memorize. Dark Pacts. Say it out loud with me. Dark Pacts. When I attack, I pack. That's the rhythm. Every time a Chaos Space Marine unit is selected to shoot or fight, you can make a Dark Pact. You are basically saying to the Dark Gods, make this attack better. You pick the bonus, you do your attack, and then you test to see if the gods bite. You are basically saying to the Dark Gods, make this attack better. You pick the bonus, you do the attack, and then you test to see if the gods bite you. If they do, you take mortal wounds. That's it. Power now, pain later. How do you know when to pact? Easiest way, if that unit is about to do something important like shooting a key target, charging a big monster, or clearing the objective, you pact. If the unit is just taking pot shots or swinging at something that's already dead, don't pact. Chaos doesn't reward being wasteful. You always want to feel like the mortals you take actually brought you something to the table. This rule is what makes Chaos Space Marines feel different from Loyalists. Loyalist Marines get rules that make them safer or cleaner or more accurate for free. Chaos Marines get rules that say, you can be that good too if you're willing to bleed. That's the fantasy of the faction. You're always sitting on the edge where you could do something amazing, but it might cost you. Okay, let's talk how the army actually moves and fights, because Chaos Space Marines are not a set in the corner gun line. This army wants to play in the middle of the board. You walk forward with your infantry, you support them with your characters, and you use your fast or deep striking stuff to pressure the enemy. You don't want to trade at 48 inches. You want to be at the ranges where pistols, flamers, bolters, and melee all matter. That's where your packs are actually worth doing. Now, Chaos Space Marines in 10th edition are basically presented in a couple of flavors, and each one is just a different way of saying, I want more power out of the Dark Pact. Let's do the first one, the fabulous Bile style, sometimes called Mutant Rush. This is the version of Chaos that shows up to the battle having already done weird surgery on itself. Before the game even starts, you pick bonuses. You can make your infantry faster, tougher, or hit harder. That is huge for new players because it turns your basic Chaos Space Marines from a little slow into actually the middle on turn 1 or 2. And once you get there, you start making Dark Pacts. So the units that are already mutant now swing even harder. The message of the detachment is hurt yourself before the battle, get better. Then hurt yourself again during the battle, hit even harder. If you like big melee, if you like pushing the middle, if you like saying, I don't care that I took 2 mortals, I killed your unit, this is your lane. Second style, The sorcerer style. This is for people who like magic, Daemon princes, and doing things near characters. The idea here is simple. Every time you make a Dark Pact, you get to add a second little bonus. If you're close to the right kind of leader, so maybe your guns get stronger. If you're near a psyker, maybe your melee gets better AP if you're near a Daemon prince. Same core rule, pack on attack. Maybe take mortals. But now you're rewarded for good positioning. This is a great way to teach yourself how to play Chaos Space Marines cleanly, because it forces you to keep your characters where your real units are instead of camping them in the back. These guys fight better because the sorcerer is powering them up. A third style, the jump and scare them style, raptors, warp talons, deep strikey. I appear 6 inches away and now you're worried. This one is for the people who like mobility and pressure. You're not always charging the turn you arrive, but you are showing up close enough to force your opponent to deal with you. Then, next turn, you pact and hit. It's more about tempo than about having one huge alpha strike. You jump in. You force them to back up or spin stratagems. You set up for the next following turn. If you like playing in your opponent's deployment zone and making them make bad decisions, that's the way to go. Now let's talk about the actual units, because at the end of the day, every Chaos Space Marine list for a new player is the same skeleton. You start with a character, Chaos Lord or Prince. You pick 2 units, Chaos Space Marines or Legionaries. You add 1 hammer unit, something that hits way harder than regular Marines, like Chosen or Possessed. Then you add a scary thing that moves fast or has a big gun. A Daemon engine, a Disco Lord, a fast melee unit. Whatever fits the detachment you pick. Why this order? Because your character is what makes the rest of your army work. A lot of your buffs say within 6 inches, or when this unit makes a pact, do X. If you don't have a character, you're just pacting and taking mortal wounds and not getting the extra juice. These 2 units of basic Marines are your test bed. These are the guys that walk onto objectives and show you when to pact and when not to pact. The hammer unit is what actually wins the fight in the middle, and the scary thing that stops your opponent from ignoring you and shooting through you. So let's walk through a turn so you can hear how it sounds on the table. Your Marines move onto the mid objective. Your opponent has some elite unit across the table. You select your Chaos Space Marines to shoot. You say, I make a Dark Pact. You pick the pack that helps. Maybe better AP, maybe better strength. Whatever your detachment gives you, you shoot. Then you test. Maybe you take 2 mortals. That unit is now a little hurt. That's okay. You then charge with your hammer unit. You make another pact. You hit harder. You clear the enemy off the mid. Now, you own the middle. That is the whole game plan. Move up, pact on things that matter, win the trade, hold the board. A lot of new players mess this up by pacting all the time. Don't do that. If you pact on every single activation, you're going to slowly kill yourself and you won't have anything left on turn 3. Chaos is not always on. Chaos is, I turn it on when it matters. If a unit is just screening or holding your back objective, don't pack with it. Save the pain for the units that are actually fighting. Let's talk about theme for a second, because Chaos Space Marines are one of the armies where tones matter. These guys are still Marines, so they're good at everything. But the Dark Gods let them overcloak for a cost. Loyalists do it clean. Chaos do it messy. Now for the first 1,000 points or your first learning games. Here's the order. I'd tell people to build leader, 2 troops, 1 melee threat, 1 support piece. Leader could be a Daemon Prince because that instantly sells the Chaos fantasy. Troops could be 2 units of Chaos Space Marines with bolters and melee mixed. The melee threat could be Possessed or Chosen. Possessed look more chaotic, Chosen look more Fallen Marine. The support piece, it could be a Forged Fiend or a Mauler Fiend, or even Raptors if you want pressure. That's enough to test the pack, practice moving to the middle, and see which detachment you'll like. As you grow the army, you can lean into one of the 3 lanes we talked about. If you like the Bile mutant stuff, add more infantry so you can buff more bodies. If you like the sorcerer style, add more psychers and Daemon characters so more of your packs get the extra bonuses. If you like the jump-in style, start grabbing more fast units so you can arrive, battle shock people, and set up multi-turn traps. All three of those still use the same core rule. That's why Chaos Space Marines are actually beginner friendly right now. Once you get Dark Pacts, the rest is just flavor. Chaos Space Marines are Trader Marines with a power for pain rule. You don't sit still, you walk to the middle, you only pack to fights that matter. You use the characters to make these packs even better. You pick a detachment that matches your personality, mad science, warp, or jump scare. And you build from a simple core. Leader, 2 troops, hammer, and support. If that helped you understand who the Spiky Boys actually are and how they work in 10th edition, subscribe so you don't miss the next faction breakdown, and tell me in the comments which Chaos flavor you want next. Black Legion, Night Lords, or just how to make the possessed actually stick on objectives. Blood for the Blood God, actually.